Eliza Edwards, Sky News, Canberra.
Let's go live now to Albury. Joining me is National Senate leader Bridget McKenzie, who represents that border region. Senator McKenzie, thanks again for your time. How's the region? How are your constituents in that part of the world dealing with this very unusual situation?
Well, thanks, Kieran. I mean, it's testament to the resilience and the can-do attitude, I think, of regional Australians on both sides of the river right along the Murray and that border between New South Wales and Victoria today. I know, and we spoke earlier this week, that so many of the residents on either side of the river were trying to log on last night into the wee hours of the morning to get their localised permit. A lot have been able to do that. We know there's over 50,000 that have been issued today alone, and it really goes to the problem that we have here at the local level. This is a city, two communities, one city, Albury-Wodonga, which is over 100,000 people, the vast majority of which will need a permit to just conduct their everyday lives. But more concerning for me as leader of the Nats in the Senate and as someone that cares about the prosperity of regional communities is that this actually services a catchment of over 250,000 people. This is their major access point for government services, for health and education systems, and indeed their social life. And more importantly, this is one economy. And so facilitating people moving, being able to get to work, being able to open up and keep their businesses open is a prime concern for myself and obviously the local mayors and community leaders here.
Well, as you pointed out to me earlier in the week, in terms of those who are in Albury and needing medical treatment in Wodonga, I believe the maternity ward is only in one side of that twin city. A cancer treatment only happens in one side but covers the whole catchment.
That's
so
right.
There are various people, obviously, that are going to have to be travelling sometimes a number of times a day across that river.
Absolutely, Kieran, and we've got only one headspace, and it's on one side of the river for our young people who are experiencing untold mental health concerns as well. I think that is one of the prime concerns that I'm hearing, not just into my electorate office in Wodonga, but when I talk to community leaders, is the lack of clarity around these provisions and how there's a lot of confusion, anger and frustration and growing anxiety on how people locally can do the right thing and still get on with their daily lives for what is a worrying and very concerning spike in COVID-19 cases very far away in Melbourne. I think the Premier has made the right decision in strictly locking down Melbourne and affected postcodes, but the reality is up here on the border, we want to get our businesses open. I heard our local restaurant, Italian restaurant in Wodonga, fantastic pasta, can I say, had 80 cancellations overnight, just as they're about to open up. I mean, we've been slammed with the drought, slammed with the bushfires, and now COVID-19 as our community small businesses are wanting to open up and keep people employed.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking for those businesses, for their employees, and you can see why people are cautious though, Senator McKenzie, can't you? Because with that lockdown, we've already seen a handful of cases, I believe, in the border area and in the ACT. We've got 3 today. So it shows you how quickly this thing moves across borders.
Absolutely. We talked about that earlier this week. You've got to respect this virus. It is highly contagious, and that is why it is so important for us to do all the things we know we should be doing, socially distancing, sanitising our hands and the like. And, you know, there's 2 reasons why I believe we've seen the high spike in cases in Melbourne. That was the failure of the quarantine system under Daniel Andrews, but also that tacit approval from premiers on the Black Lives Matter protests, where rightfully family members then said, well, if they can do it, why can't we? And then we saw that community spread occur. We've got to treat this virus with respect. Because we need to keep our economies open and Australians employed. Another issue locally has been, I was talking to the local mayor in Wodonga, there hasn't been a great amount of communication between state premiers and indeed local community leaders. We've seen the local library in Wodonga flooded with our migrant community looking for information in language. I asked her if there'd been any support in that area from the state governments, and as of yet there hasn't been. So again, we've got to get the message out to all of our communities so that we can do the right thing. I've also written to both premiers. One of the issues, Kieran, one of the great things, I got my permit, no worries. I got my local permit, no worries. If you live in Albury or Wodonga, you get a border permit. It gives you sort of a radius of 50k. Now that 50k may seem like a long distance if you're from Melbourne or Sydney. The reality is 100k's, you can get, if you're 100k's from Albury, Wodonga, you can probably get here quicker than you can if you're in Penrith into the CBD in Sydney. So a lot of our workforce and people that access this community and see themselves as Albury, Wodonga regional residents are 100k away rather than being this 50k arbitrary number. So I'd be calling on the premiers to actually extend that boundary for a border resident to 100k from communities like Albury, Wodonga.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Now, just finally, in terms of extending support, would you be calling on your colleagues in the federal government to extend JobKeeper? And because, I mean, you talk about that restaurant in your town, they might be opening and operating, but still quite clearly their numbers are well off and will continue to be so while this fear hangs over the community.
Well, the Treasurer has made it very, very clear that any support we're to give post-September will be based on need, and I'm confident, given the way our federal government has responded so quickly and so effectively to both the economic and the health concerns brought about by the COVID-19 pandemic, that type of response will continue.
Senator Mackenzie joining me live from Albury. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Anytime, Kieran.